And so today we have Jody and Reed. Not sure my introduction will do this justice, but Jodian is, I think I describe her as a nomad at best. She has been in tech for a few years now, and decided to leave Jamaica back in 2014 to explore a lot of, I guess, exciting career paths in different countries, from working as a developer to, I guess, a manager, and then technical product manager as well. Jordan has experience from um, experiencing just moving between not just different countries, and working and living there, but also different working environments. And I going to assume a decent chunk of them are remote, especially now. Jordan also freelances, and I'm hoping that throughout not just this conversation, but the entire event, uh, Jordan will be able to give you a lot of insight into other possibilities that you can explore, since you're already in tech, and so I want you guys to more or less just come out of this uh, thinking about new opportunities to take advantage of outside of Jamaica. Not saying to abandon Jamaica, but you know, kind of look elsewhere as well. So without further ado, Jodian. Oh, I think you're on mute.
Yeah,
There.
I was like, let me unmute myself because kids in the background, etc., etc. Thanks, Nicholas. Thanks everyone for sharing their evening with us. I hope as I go through this content, as I said, I did not want to make too many slides. It's just a couple, and feel free to ask questions. Feel free to ask questions that based on topics that we did not bring up because we have 1 hour to share, and I hope by the end of this, someone is actually saying, you know what, I've been, looking at this all wrong, or, I've not been looking at my true potential. I've not been looking at the markets that exist, or I've been boxing myself, or marketing myself as this one thing when I'm so much more, right? And I hope to hear from one of you guys within the next couple of months and say, hey, I did it. I did something crazy. I have this new job, but, I'm relocating here, or I have this remote job that's given me this great experience in this company that I never thought about before, right? So that being said, I'm going to start my little slides. And my deck's up too. So, oh boy, this thing with the map that you have to go and then you have to specifically indicate what you want to
Oh,
share.
yes.
And I did not do it before. Can you tell me where it is again? I don't remember. To share my
Well,
second screen.
can
Google
put
it.
the,
It's a well known problem because my team has it. I'm the only one at work who uses a Windows machine, and uh, so they
so,
have it all the time, but I never have it. So sorry guys for this technical issue.
oh, I'm vaguely familiar with the issue.
Yeah, I have to go to system preferences, security and privacy. System preferences,
Yes.
security. Where is that part? And then grant access. Cool.
Yeah.
I'm clicking on it now, and it's not giving it to me. It's not allowing me to give it. Oh my God. All right, I think I'm clicking on it, and it's not allowing me to. So I don't know how to. I gave it to Blue Jeans, but now I'm not seeing on how to give it to Zoom. All right,
You're
I'm not
in,
gonna waste. Sorry?
you're in security and privacy, right?
Yeah, I'm not gonna waste anybody's time. I am gonna share this with you again, and you can open it for me if
Sure.
I
Yeah.
remember your. What's your email again?
Yeah. I'll
Found
type
it.
it.
Found it. Found it. Found it. So you should get an email like. All right. So, as Nicholas rightly mentioned, I'm just going to speak to the about me. He was totally correct. I left the University of the West Indies in 2007, I think. I would say before that, I didn't really know what I wanted. I was introduced to coding as basic in high school, and then I did really good in the exams, but I actually got accepted to do quantity surveying of all things at UTech. And then I went to UE, and I wanted to go to UE just because my friends were there. I was like, I'm going to do anything because all my friends are at UE, I'm going to UE. And I applied for the computer science program. I got in, and the rest is history. After that, I kind of left school, started looking at a job. My first job was actually at one of those agencies that did like websites, and I was getting paid at that time like 40,000 Jamaican dollars. I like to bring this up. It was like 40,000 on a check, no benefits. And I was in that job for a couple months, and the boss was like, "Oh yeah, we're going to think about putting you on staff," and he would let me know when. And it just, every time I started looking for him to have the conversation, it never happened. And then I went to move to work at Fiscal. People probably know it as eGov. I was there for almost 7 years. And I really loved that job itself in terms of, when you go and you complain about the government system or the tax system, I would keep my mouth shut because in some way I was contributing to that. And but I really liked the work that I was doing. I really liked the fact that I had this idea that eventually we would go and we would change the world, and Jamaica would be the next Singapore, or some place with fully digitized system. At that time, the government of Jamaica was sending people abroad to do these studies in different countries around the e-gov, right? A fully e-governance. So we were like, okay, we're working towards this change, etc. Then I was contacted, by a recruiter overseas. By the time the work environment, you can want to change or you can want to be the best you can be in your environment, but it's not always going to be the best for you. But I was contacted by a recruiter, and she was like, "Hey, we have this position for you. Do you want to interview for it? It's in Costa Rica." And if you're like me, when you hear Costa Rica, you think Puerto Rico. So it's a very, very common mistake. So I was like, Costa Rica? I mean, why not? Pays US dollars, full relocation, my entire family. They'll put you up for 3 months. They take care of everything, and they do support you, right? So I was like, all right, let me see. Went through that process, passed. I was relocated, let's say one month later. It was like, it was like pass the interview. Okay, you can buy your ticket. When do you want to leave? Okay, I need to resign. Okay, I need to go to the U.S. Embassy to get visas to the rest of my family. Okay, I need to move from my apartment. I moved from my apartment like 2 days before I flew out of the country. So it was hell. So yeah, so I continued tech, work in Costa Rica for almost 6 years, got residency, bought an apartment, and now I'm working in the US where I'm actually a TPM at American Express. So I think you can go to the next slide. I think I kind of spoke to the next slide already, which is really my background. Um,
And then
yeah,
next.
yep, yep. So evaluating your market. Yeah, you can leave it right there.
Okay.
Yeah. So when I was in Jamaica, I'm going to speak about the market in Jamaica. And anyone on the call not Jamaican or not living in Jamaica currently, you can just say hi, I, or whatever.
Oh, they're
Okay,
tapping
me. So
chat.
Rihanna is not Jamaican, right? Okay.
Uh-huh.
Oh, she's Trinidadian. So when I was in Jamaica, circa 2014, the market was a snooze fest. Snooze fest meaning there were only a few companies who were hiring. I mentioned it to Nicholas earlier. Like NCB was paying well, Digicel, then Claro came and kind of hiked up salaries and pulled in a lot of people. But there were just not a lot of companies that were paying well. And I remember even going to an interview at one of those building societies. And when I told them the salary I wanted, they basically raised their eyebrows and they never called me back. They were trying to pay people the least that they could, for the work that you were doing, regardless of whether or not you were certified, you had years of experience. Because, in my opinion, I could be wrong, there seemed to have been an influx of developers or people qualified. People, a lot of qualified people were there, and there were just not enough jobs, so they could do that. Okay. Can you go next, Nicholas? I'll just keep telling next. So yeah, so you can press next like two more times, everything on the screen, right? So for me, it was a snooze fest because of the job options. They were just not there. For me, the learning and networking opportunities, they were not there. I know Ingrid Riley had some sessions. I went to a couple of them at Jamaica Pegasus. It was Pegasus, and there was an opportunity for people who were thinking of starting up companies to do some pitching, etc. But outside of that, I did not know of anything much that you could just go to and talk about tech. And um, there weren't groups like this, right? You could go and definitely meet people, and someone say, hey, I have an opening here or there, and to have that kind of conversation around finding a new job or finding a new field. You weren't going to find your links organically like that. Next. Also, speaking of the salary, as I mentioned before, people are leaving university, and it may seem weird because that's like how many years ago? That's 7 years ago. But people are leaving university, and as I mentioned, my first job was like less than $400, right, per month, leaving university, and people are just not paying. People are just not paying. They're like, "Oh, you're asking for that much? There's another grad who's going to take that money and run with it. So I don't need to pay you. I don't need to pay you the salary. And I don't need to pay you the salary that you're making at eGov, because I can find someone else who's hungry to get that money, right? So that was it then. Nicholas, any comments on what it's like now?
Yeah, sure. I guess things it hasn't changed exponentially, but there have been like gradual changes that would seem like we are heading in a more progressive direction. I mean, it's not just one NCB, quote unquote, anymore. You have other banks, because banks. You have other banks that are hiring at a fast pace as well, and they seem to be wanting to pay. They seem to be paying decent rates,
Hmm.
because they're more or less trying to grab as many developers as possible. Because COVID.
Yeah, well, yeah. So yeah, that's a great improvement. I remember Scotia didn't even have. I don't think it has changed the development group here. So it was just for banks. It was just NCB or like First Heritage Credit Union or something.
Hmm.
You just didn't have that many options. So my neighbors are having a fiesta next door. So if you hear that music too loudly, please let me know. Next slide, please. Right. So this, since I can't control it, just next until the last one comes, so I can speak to them.
Hmm.
So there are four items.
Yeah,
So there
excellent.
are four things that I think I definitely did wrong as a dev. I thought I was really, really good at what I did. I could go and I could, migrate a project. I could code something from scratch. I knew Spring Security. I knew the things that were in style at that time. I was good with JavaScript, and people were coming to me to ask me questions on the day to day about development, etc. So I knew I was good at what I did, but I grossly underestimated my value, right? So you may be thinking, what does that mean, right? You're here in a workplace, you may feel undervalued. They're telling you they can't give you a promotion, they can't give you a raise, etc. And instead of trying to find options, you just sit and you say, all right, maybe next time, next year, you'll go around and see whether or not something different or something better is going to happen, or the promise that your boss made you about revising your pay in 6 months, etc. You're thinking, oh, well, I mean, let's wait and see. I was grossly underestimated my value and what I meant to other markets, because I was only just looking at Jamaica and where I was. Also, I did not network. I lived in Stony Hill for a lot of the time, and there was traffic. So not only was the opportunity to stay back or down in Kingston a little bit more limited, I felt like I wasn't that active doing it. Just to kind of contrast it with Costa Rica, I went to so many dev meetups. A couple of my batchmates or people I worked with, they started different groups in machine learning, etc., etc. I've given talks. There's so much more that I did there. than I did in Jamaica. It just made me realize that I was not networking. I wasn't, looking at people who were, movers or shakers, or just someone, let's say, looking at Nicholas or looking at Raheem or looking at Julie and saying, hey, let's come together and try this. Let's have a discussion around this. And, what do you think about this? Or can you introduce me to that person? Because, I have an idea that could improve whatever. I was just not networking. I also had no online presence. So, I wanted to speak about MySpace as way back when, but I saw LinkedIn at a certain point as just one of those other websites that someone says, hey, I'm on this website. You go and you put up a headshot, you put something, and you did nothing on it for, let's say, years. I still see people with photos on their LinkedIn that's showing their clerks, for example. People have their clerks as their profile photo on LinkedIn. Like, seriously. So I wasn't looking at it as something that was important or at any point helpful to my online presence. Now I have my own domain, the domain name for my name. I have a couple other websites as well. I do make sure I update my LinkedIn. I probably spend more time on LinkedIn than on Twitter or any of the social media website, because as I tell my other people, LinkedIn is the only website that has ever made me money. So when Twitter starts, making me money and I become famous, like maybe some of you guys here, then then I will look at it differently. But LinkedIn is the only website that has given me astronomical, like increase in salary and the money that is coming into me. Seems like you have a point, because
I know I was just going to ask you to kind of just elaborate on that some more on the LinkedIn piece, if you can.
um yeah, I'm just saying, like, and I can answer it in what I did right, but also, yeah. So at one point in my career, when I was at that job in Jamaica, things were kind of, I was sitting and waiting and getting promises every year. And why can't I be senior, for example? And I just, kind of like got mad one day and said, you know what? I'm going to update my LinkedIn. I update my LinkedIn. I put in, my skills, the Java, the enterprise Java, the this, etc. And it was within a couple months after that last, what, I'm going to do it, that I actually got contacted for that job, that I ended up getting to leave. So, I don't want to beat a dead horse too much, because maybe in the future there could be another session on how to kind of like increase your online presence.
Mhm.
But really and truly, you have to ensure that you're portraying the right image. That doesn't mean you have to go and spend a lot of money for a headshot. But like Julia, your photo is super nice. Raheem, your photo is nice. I'm not seeing Cleon, your photo is nice. I'm only seeing three of them right now, right? But you can do whatever you want to do, or what you feel you can do to show the image you want to portray, right? Yes, you should not be judged by your image alone, but unfortunately, when you go on your profile, that's what is there. Go and update your little blurb that's there. Put your skills in. Connect with different people. And I called this out to Nicholas the other day, because Nicholas, I sent him a request on LinkedIn. I don't know when, but maybe a couple months ago. And when I contacted him about doing this session, he was like, I'm going to add you. And then he accepted my friend request. And I'm like, dude, I sent this a long time ago. And he was like, yeah, I only accept the people that I know. No, I don't agree with that one. Not saying to accept every random person. I'm not saying accept someone who's, I don't want to speak out about any particular career, right? But let's say the person is a shoemaker, for example, and you're not in the business of selling shoes. Maybe you don't want to accept that person, but you can look at people's profile, look if they're associated with your type of market or the type of companies you want to be in. You don't have to be friends with that person. I have reached out to people that I do not know to put me in contact with someone, for a job, and they have done it without ever meeting me, and I've gotten invited to interviews. Got gotten invited on site to interviews, to final interviews, just because I reached out and said, hey, I'm in the market for a job, and I see that you're connected to this person, or I know that you're a recruiter in California, but I'm in New York. Can you please, connect me with someone in New York so I can have a conversation about open roles, etc. Um, do it. I mean, don't be shy to do it, and don't be shy to accept people when they're connecting, especially recruiters, because sometimes things just connect. Things just connect in an organic way, And just to go to the destination dev bit, right? I think development is both the destination and the ticket, right? Um, I've gone to Sweden, for example, because of Dev. I flew out by Spotify. Great trip. I lost pounds on that trip because it was so long to get there from Costa Rica. The only time I've flown first class, Facebook paid for it. So I'm just saying, being a dev also takes you places, right? So it's not just about where you want to go or what you want to do, or the nomad lifestyle can be a consequence and the benefit, right, of just kind of putting yourself out there, putting yourself on the market and just networking, right? I wasn't flexible with relocation. Number four, I was not. For example, I did not want to work downtown. I never applied to Digicel because I did not want to work downtown. I did not want to be stuck in 2 hours of traffic to be to come back uptown, or I don't know what you call it, to come back this side or to go to Portmore after the day ended. So I was not flexible. I was like, you know what? I love where I work, read distance, and I don't want to change. I was not flexible at all. That was crappy of me at that time.
Mm.
Next slide. Also with 4 points. I guess I hope you're jotting down questions and stuff because I would, yeah, I don't want to just talk to myself. What I changed, I increased my online presence. As I told you, I just went and updated that LinkedIn. I think I probably bought my domain at that time as well. I think I had a blogspot first. If I don't know who know blogspot, but I had a blogspot with my details. I still have my blogs, and then I bought the domain officially through Google Domains, which makes it super simple to handle. They do not pay me, but I'd rather using them. And I just increased my online presence. I just did that. I just became a lot more open minded. So during that period, I started looking at. It's not that I'm very patriotic. I love Jamaica. I love Jamaica bad. If someone wants to talk bad about Jamaica, I'd probably like, of course, I'm always open for a discussion about the bad things and the things that we can change. I'm not the type that's going to attack you for talking the truth. But what I'm saying is that it's not that I wanted to say go Canada or go US or any of those places. But then I opened my mind and I said, what if there's an opportunity, to have a better life quality or a better career, considering that I'm now limited by my market if I just open my mind to new places. So I started looking at, say, Ireland and other places and places that did not have such a strict need for work permits, because there are many other countries, and maybe we'll talk about it in the question and answer section, like Germany, and you get that blue book, and there's so much power in other countries that are safe, there's less discrimination. Anyway, open mind to new places. I applied for jobs I wasn't qualified for. So it's now, before I was like, they want 3 years of this. I only have one. You know what? They're going to choose that person. You should see my LinkedIn applied for. I've applied to so many jobs. Sometimes it's an easy apply. I'm like, this looks interesting. I just click apply, 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 apply. If they contact me back, it's fine. We can have a discussion. If they don't contact me back, I don't lose anything. You apply for the job. If they contact you back, you're validating the fact that you were right. If they don't contact you back, it means, okay, maybe there was something that they didn't see. Let me reevaluate myself. And if that's a job that I truly want, let's see what was missing, right? So I can go and work on that and before I click apply again. And yeah, and then I just interviewed a lot more. In my last couple months in Jamaica, I think, is the first I ever interviewed so much, because I had one job when I just left university. It was one interview and I got that job. I was young and chirpy and had a big smile, so I walked in and I got the job. I'm just saying that. Um, for my second job, I applied. I interviewed 2 places, JIS and eGov, Fiscal Services, and I got the job at eGov, right? And after that, I basically never interviewed for the 7 years, almost 7 years I was there. And then towards the end, I was like, you know what? I have to do something. And I started interviewing and started realizing, hey, maybe the money is not out there in the market. I will be taking a cut in salary, or the work environment is different. But I would not have learned those things if I wasn't interviewing. To you, even if you're comfortable in your job, I will beat this to the death. Interview. Even if you're comfortable, interview. You need to know the market, and you need to know what the market is like. So, next slide. Sorry, any questions? Because I've been talking for a long time. I think I want to take a break and get some questions or some feedback.
Oh, sure. Let me see.
Let me see if I can see the chat. I can't see the chat anymore. Where's the chat?
No, none so far.
I'm actually
Uh,
inviting people to ask questions.
eliminating people. Yeah, if
Okay.
anyone, if you have any questions, I guess kind of just you can go ahead and probably raise your hand, and I'll probably unmute you. You should be able to unmute yourself though. But if you have any questions, just there we go. I think does somebody have no, Mm-mm. No questions so
I
far.
think people love to hear me talking about myself. I think it must be super amazing. So, and just to say, I hope I'm pronouncing your name, Rehanna, correctly. I know you're from Trinidad. I don't think it's much different, in many places. Your experience is just as valid. So if you have a comment or a question, go ahead as well. Okay, so yeah, so getting recruited. Many people have asked me, how is it that you went about and you got recruited? You must have done something super different. No one contacts me and asks me if I want to interview for a job, or it's just not happening. Or people don't recruit people from the Caribbean. Yeah, that's Rihanna with a question. Yeah, people. I'll answer your question shortly, Rihanna. People don't interview people from the Caribbean, etc. So how did that happen for you? Everything that I told you before, I updated my LinkedIn. The LinkedIn search is super powerful. I guess I've been on the both side, because I have, I have sourced people for roles that I've had internally. I have interviewed maybe close to 100 people at this point, if not more. Devs for dev roles for different companies for different levels, and I have gone out and tried to source people to interview for roles, because we were just not getting enough people. Or I've looked and said, this person could be a candidate. Internal HR, did you reach out to this person? Maybe you can check this person, see if they're in the market. So the first thing I would say is just have an online presence. There are people who get recruited from Twitter, or there are people who get recruited because they go to seminars and speak, etc. But before you have that, level of visibility, number one is to just be visible. Be visible in the searches that people are going to do for the roles that you want, right? So now as a TPM, technical project manager and not program manager, though it's the same acronym for both. um, you want to put, the moment you become a TPM, and people start searching for TPMs, you're going to come up. The moment you put that you're a dev on LinkedIn, if you're going to come up. The moment you put skills, if they search for skills, you're going to come up. If you put in your header that, Java dev, senior Java dev looking for new role or whatever, just put some keywords there so that you can come up in searches that people are doing. So I just did what I said I did. I did no magic formula. I promise. I didn't do it. I didn't burn any incense or anything. I just updated my online profile, and I was contacted. So Rihanna as a question: if I interned while at Dewey?
Yeah.
No, I did not. Um, I did, I mean, let me say it like this. I did a summer work in my first year at UWI, which was nothing computer related. It was a summer job. It was not an internship. It was at I don't remember. It was basically making calls to business owners to see. I think it was American Chamber of Commerce or something, or Jamaica. I don't remember. It was making calls. It was nothing related to IT, and I did not do an IT internship, which I would say is a big gap in our market. And compared to Costa Rica, which has a strong internship program, and interns have to be paid. Internship is actually required to graduate. So I've interviewed a lot of interns and worked with a lot of interns while in Costa Rica. We don't have that. in Jamaica right now. I think people would rather hire a good grad, pay you intern money under the guise that they're testing your skills, which is basically what I think my first job was. So no, Rihanna, I did not intern. Cool. To the next slide, please. Yeah, so this is just like a list of what I see working, like things that I've tried or I've looked at other people and I've seen working for them. Number one, have an online presence. If you are like a visual dev, like you're doing front end, etc., have a portfolio. I have been full stack, as in I've always had to do both the front end and the back end for my work. In the last year of my dev career, I was mostly doing Angular, right? So this is basically, if you want to call it front end, because I was not writing by the time they had most of their web services designed. So I wasn't doing a lot of back end work at that time. So, but if you're front end, have a portfolio for sure. Have a ready resume. So many times I've asked my friends, "Hey, they're hiring. Do you want to apply?" Oh, but I have to go and fix up my resume. 1 week later, where's the resume? I haven't finished fixing it up. Where's the resume? I should not be chasing you for a resume. If you have your LinkedIn up to date, you can download your resume from LinkedIn. If not, every time you change jobs, go and update your resume. Every time you get a cert, update your resume. People will reach out and say, "Hey, give me a resume." You should not be waiting, or I don't believe in waiting on anyone for 1 week for a resume. I forget you and I've gone to ask someone else, for their resume. I'm moving along with people who have their resumes ready. I don't have no special treatment for people. And for people just because you're my friend, if you can't give me a resume within a couple of days, like seriously, know your stuff or be prepared to study. No one knows everything. No one knows everything. You're not going to know all the ins and outs of Java or JavaScript, etc. And don't believe that you need to know it like the back of your hand to apply for any company, whether it be Facebook, Google, Uber, I don't know, Amazon, all companies I failed interviews at. So I'm just saying, don't believe that you have to know everything to start. Apply anyway and look what they're telling you need and then study, right? Not saying you're going with a blank slate, right? Know your stuff. If I ask you the principles of object-oriented programming, for example, if you're a backend developer, I expect you to know that. I expect you to know it. Or just go and Google top 10 questions for Java thing. Make sure you know some of the basics before you come into the interview. If you're a front end working with Angular React, I'm not sure the concept of promise exists in React. But you should know what a promise is, for example. But you're not expected to know every single thing, right? Or be prepared to study. When I interviewed for that role in Costa Rica, for example, I told you guys I wasn't interviewing, and the idea to go and do a Codility where they're running my code on some platform is going to give me the time complexity and space complexity. I never knew what the hell that was, right? So yeah, so have a resume ready. Be flexible with your time and your time zones. And I see we're running out of time, so I'm just kind of going to go a little faster. Be flexible if that's what you want. Be flexible. Don't be so rigid. And especially for interviewing, I've gotten up at 3 a.m. to interview for Germany, for the UK. Um, I've done it because I wanted the job, and they were going to fly me out there. And I was like, even if I don't get the job, I'm going to go to London. I'm going to see Big Ben. And so I'm going to get up at 3 a.m. and I'm going to interview, right? And for that job, I didn't go to England because of my passport. I would have to go to, I think, Colombia to apply for a visa. And it was just too much. I told them I couldn't make it on site. But I'm just saying, be prepared to study, be flexible, be honest about your needs, your salary, the position and places to live. Don't apply for a job in Mandeville or something and be like, oh, I mean, I could move down there when you know in your heart you're not going to move there. Don't waste your time. Don't waste the interviewer's time. Don't tell them you'll accept 60 grand when you know you don't want $60,000. Be very honest. Don't waste anybody's time and don't waste your time. Know your worth and follow through and follow up. If you're gonna do the resume, give the resume, follow through. If you're giving them, need to give time slots where you're available, follow through. If you interview and you want the feedback, follow up. If someone's supposed to get back to you about times for an interview, follow up. If someone's supposed to get back to you about the salary, follow up, right? If it's something that you want, you also have to do the follow through. And next slide, I think I have one more. Do I?
Yes, you have two more.
Okay, so I think I'm gonna take questions now if anyone has any. So this bit was about relocating and closing the deal. It's basically around let's say you have gotten this job. Now I told you LinkedIn is definitely one of the strongest bits. Apply, connect to recruiters in your companies, the companies you want to work with, in the countries you want to work in, right? But when you get the job, there are some things that you have to consider, and you can just go next. And I want to go into all the details, but this is just my short list. The location, make sure you want to live there, make sure it's safe, make sure it's conducive to your family situation. When I moved to Costa Rica, so many people, considering I had kids, yes, kids. I didn't go there as a single person, which would have been a lot of partying and having cerveza in bars, which I still did. But think about your family situation at the time. Read whether or not your spouse is gonna be able to work. Um, whether or not it's safe. Whether or not the air quality is clean. Whatever it is that is important to you, think about it before you think about relocating. Think about the visa requirements. There was a question that was asked in one of the previous sessions about whether or not people should finish their degrees or just go to boot camp or just wing it. It's okay to wing it as a freelancer, but a lot of countries have visa requirements that means you need to have at least a bachelor's, right? They're not doing it to discriminate against you. They're making sure that I was going to make a joke, and I will not, since this is being recorded, I'm not going to say it. But they're trying to ensure that people are truly qualified for the jobs that they're coming into the country to do. So you can't just hire your friend or your brother or your cousin, right? To come from a different, or a wife to come from a different country. They're not qualified and they end up with this big position. They're doing it to kind of just ensure that you're at least on par with what they have locally in the market for the job, right? So check the visa requirements. You may be qualified for the job, but not qualified for the visa, right? So if your country has a visa requirement that you have to have a bachelor's or certain years of experience, which Costa Rica has that one, I think maybe from an associate's upwards, depending on I know from my job that's what I did. I can't speak for other roles. Just make sure you match that. The social environment, as I mentioned, are you going to be bullied or are you going to be discriminated against? Will you find a good support system? Do you need to have other Jamaicans around you? Are there other Jamaicans around you? Think about those things. Think about the company support. Um, Moving to the US, I never had company support. I didn't need it, luckily. But in Costa Rica, if I didn't have that, because my Spanish was no bueno, it didn't exist. I could only say quiero pan, quiero un sandwich, a la cama, la leche, como eso. So, I mean, if I didn't have company support, being assigned someone to carry me around the places I needed to go, someone assigned to handle all my paperwork, a taxi driver would bring me to the office every morning and drop me back at the apartment that they provided for up to a certain amount of months. I don't know how I would manage to go and buy my house things. I went with two suitcases to buy, you know, furniture. And for example, I took an apartment that was unfurnished because it was cheaper. I wanted to save my money. So when I went to buy my furniture and stuff, the taxi man would take me everywhere. He put my stove in his trunk. So, company support is super important. The relocation package, which kind of ties into the company support. Think about whether or not you have 10,000. There are some places in Europe where they will not rent to outsiders. So if you're not a local, it is so hard to get a rental place. So if your company is not helping you to get an apartment, you're going to be stuck. You're going to be stuck with the worst of the worst because they need to either have a letter from your company or you need to be a local. You need to show them people said they need a kidney to open a bank account in Jamaica. You probably have to show your kidney to to get an apartment. So think about that. And of course, the salary. Yes, you may be anxious to move somewhere because you've always wanted to live there. You've seen beautiful photos of Italy and London and Spain. You want to go to Madrid. You want to live in Barcelona. But if the money doesn't work, don't force it. Um, I've gotten, like an offer to move to Sweden for client. Well, take that back. Let's really pray. Yeah, I got an offer to move, and I that fell through because the salary they were offering me at the time, they were saying, explicit 60,000 euros. And 60,000 euros wasn't bad. But for a single person, it wasn't bad. But if you have family, that is not a lot of money, especially if you're a couple, that's fine as well. But if you had kids to send to school, for example, if you had to pay a nanny, etc., it would not be enough. So yes, no one is going to pay you for, based on whether or not you have 6 kids or you have money to send, you have to send that money to Jamaica, etc. But if money is not working, it's not working. You don't go to a foreign country to get stranded to eat ramen every night, unless that's what you want to do, just because just because you wanted to say yes to the salary, right? So make sure that the salary is on par just as well. And that's my last slide. So open for some questions.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much, Jordan. Um, before we, oh, okay, we already have questions. Brandon asks, how long did it take you to adjust to life in a new country?
Um, I would say, I would say less than a year. I definitely think it was way easier it's way easier when you speak the language, right? So everything that I needed, I had to have a translator. So if I went to the supermarket, I went to Walmart. Luckily, there was a Walmart close to my house. Because when I go to the small supermarket, small bodega, you have to speak to the person about everything. If you go to Walmart, you pick up everything, they scan it, you push it in the machine. But sometimes the person would put something to the into to the. It's not long. I'm going to tell you why. The person you put your card into the machine, and the person asks you something else like, "Do you want to donate some money to some fund?" You don't understand anything that the person is saying, so it becomes a stress. So what I'm saying is that if you don't speak the language, it could take up to a year. If you don't speak the language, I think that because for me, adapting is being able to comfortably go shopping, go to mechanic. If you have a car, go to the hospital by yourself, etc. Because if I went to the doctor, I had to take someone with me sometimes. So that's why I'm saying it could be like 6 months to a year. If you speak the language, like in Sweden, most people speak English. Some of them will pretend they don't speak it, but a lot of people do speak it. I would say within 3 to 6 months, because as I said, depending on what adapting is for you. For me, adapting is being able to go to the supermarket and do things I would do in Jamaica by myself. Go to the bank, for example. Um,
Is there anything you wish you did before moving?
Yeah, I would say for Costa Rica, for example, I think they gave me a list of common costs like how much is normal for rent, etc.
Mm.
How much is normal for childcare, etc. And they gave me a sheet. But I think the list they used was kind of on the lower end, like it was moderate in terms of the cost, and it wasn't the real market. So when I went, I realized that some of the costs that they told me was too cheap. For example, $300 per month for school for kids. It was more like closer to 450 to 500. So I would have actually contacted someone and asked myself, and not just rely just on what the company gave me. So yes, that definitely I wish I had done that. I did reach out to someone before I went just to ask about a little bit of basics, but I did not ask more about the social environment. So now when I move into a country, and I consider moving to the Netherlands, I went and joined the expat group to see what kind of issues expats were facing beforehand. So I'd recommend any place you're moving to, the city, the country, go and find an expat group on Facebook and join it. Start asking questions, start looking at the problems that people are having, especially people who speak English if it's a different language, or people from your background, because that will give you a good idea.
Cool. Did the companies give you opportunities to do remote work, at least partly sometimes?
Yeah, it depends. Remote in that a lot of countries, because of
I mean,
legal.
pre-COVID, of course.
Okay, depends on tax. The problem is it's really hard to find a company that's gonna, let's say, give you a full remote in another country because of the tax implications. In the US, because they have the 1099, they can,
Mm,
but some other countries they don't really allow it. So your company may allow you to work outside. They may, you can work overseas for 2 weeks or a month, or depending on the arrangement you have or your personal situation. But for tax implications, it's either you're going to find a company that's going to allow you to work remotely permanently, and that's a remote job, or if you're going to relocate for a job, chances are they're going to allow you to work remotely only for a short period of time. Like for me, I worked remotely for like a month. I was traveling between the US and Jamaica, and my company allowed me to do that. But if because I wanted to travel and they didn't mind. But yeah.
hmm, cool.
And now
Yeah.
I'm working fully remotely since March until September, because American Express will allow us to work until September from home, at
Oh,
least.
oh, okay.
So I
Good
see
to
someone
know.
says, how do I manage my time and stay organized? I don't. I prioritize what's most important. I try to get those done. But I can tell you, I have a lot of projects that I have not finished. A lot of ideas that I want to implement in Jamaica. Like some projects, I think like there are groups like the COVID Jam Bot. I have ideas that's not bought, but I think would be critical for Jamaican ecosystem. But the time, I don't have the time, and I don't have like people to say, "Come on, you're gonna do this. Let's do it." And I could code it myself, but it's not realistic from a time perspective.
May I ask, are you open to like if those projects, valuable if you would push that towards a community that you could challenge and say, oh, this is the idea, it's for Jamaica, let's do it as a community and make it open source. Would you be interested like for something like that?
Yep. And when I look at the work that you guys did, and I'm not sure if you're part of the group, I just say you guys because I know the COVID Jam Bot and some
Mhm.
other team. I know you guys mean onely. I thought of it, but I also am careful of how I ask people for their time. So if you're open to it, I'm open to having a discussion. But I don't want to tell people, I think this is a good idea. And make you feel compelled to prioritize it, or feel like I'm, like asking. It's just really complicated asking people for their time, or even to just meet. I do it for free. I've done so many consultations for free with people, just saying they have an idea they want to run past me. People in Jamaica, some of them they contact me. I give them 2 hours, 3 hours. They never even contact me back to say I did go ahead with the idea or something, right? But yeah, I do it with other people, but I feel weird asking people for their time like that. But if you're open to it, reach out on LinkedIn, contact me. I definitely think it is something that will be super important right now. I see a lot of need for it, so reach out to me and we can run that past. Because I really don't want to. I'm not looking to make money. I just want to make a good impact right now.
Mm, cool.
I
Um,
take free money, of course, but I'm just saying, like, that's not my end. That's my end. I'm like, oh,
we all take free money. Oh, what types of remote slash distributed team tools and software have you used, and how did you use them?
I think this is the company I usually use internal tools. So when I was working with Wells Fargo, we use Skype, right? So
Mm,
and it was changed to Link. So we had team members in India, the US, and Costa Rica. So we use a lot more of those internal kind of tools. Now I'm using WebEx. Um, so I'm using WebEx a lot more for that bit. And of course, I'm like for tool for work management, there's the Jira, there's the Rally, which are more enterprise. I know people use Trello, etc., etc., etc. So I'm not sure if that's what you're asking.
yeah. What was it like working with various teams in different countries?
It's really, really fun. We had a board in Costa Rica where you put the countries on, and we actually had one Jamaican, another Jamaican that joined. It was funny, and and not to go off topic, and also just to bring up, other Jamaicans have contacted me when I was there, saying they got an offer, that someone contacted them and asked me if the salary they were getting made sense. And I've often told them, okay, if you have a family and so, okay, that, tell them to give you more or don't come. For example, I've told people that if you want this, come along. If you have 3 kids on a mortgage and you plan to pay back that mortgage, it probably won't work, right? For example. Um, okay, so yeah, it's really good to work with teams that are different. When I was a team lead, everyone on my team came from different countries. My team was the minority of the people in my team was actually Costa Rican. Is that weird? So I have Togo from the team that I led. Togo, Egypt, Colombia, Venezuela. I'm just trying to think. Philippines, because the company relocated a lot of people with the relevant skills. So my team, the one I led, was actually not a lot of Costa Ricans, and it was fun. Especially going out and eating food and trying different people's food. I had a Jamaican party at my house during when I felt like it. I cooked a lot of Jamaican food and invited people over, meeting people's families, learning curse words in their languages or good words. I'm just saying it was really, really good to work with people, and it taught you a lot of tolerance, a tolerance for differences and cultural norms.
Safra asks, is that because there's not a lot of Costa Ricans with the skills they need? I'm assuming
Um,
that as to why they chose you, for instance, or rather, more specifically, somebody outside of Costa Rica.
okay, so what happened is that Costa Rica was blowing up exponentially, and they needed a lot of senior devs. So if you check Costa Rica now, because they open a lot of free zones. So the free zone I worked with, American Free Zone, it has VMware, Amazon, so many big companies. Those companies
Yeah,
unless we clean up Jamaica, they're not going to come to Jamaica because you need a company low on the corruption index to have those companies. So
yes.
these companies needed experienced engineers. So at that point, I had, let's say, 7, 8 years. They need people with experience and also speaking English. So that's a twofold thing. So English is an asset. Just bringing that up. So because of that, they found that even if they found someone with a skill, the people didn't have the English. So I interviewed a lot of people who technically they passed, but their English wasn't enough to communicate with the customer, so we could not hire them. So that was kind of like a mix of it. So Costa Rica, a lot of Costa Ricans speak English, and they're trying to incorporate as fast as they can. A lot of call centers are opening in Costa Rica. There's a lot of competition for Jamaica because they're really aggressively going after the English. So this is why they started, my company in particular, they needed, let's say, 100 engineers. They started relocating people like crazy from different countries. As I said, Portugal, Italy, Spain, every continent you can think of, right? And because they needed to present to the client that they had people with the skills and the communication. So that's really what the big deal was for them getting people inside. And they got special free zone thing from the government where they could bring these people in, pay them in US dollars. And those companies, I think they had some tax benefit also for being in free zone areas. I hope that answered your question, Safra.
Yeah, she said it does. Did any of the companies you worked at have any team building activities like enforcing employee bonding and stuff like that?
Yeah, but I don't like the word enforcing. I do not like the word enforcing, but why? Because it sounded like it was mandatory. I felt like the team bonding that we had, everyone wanted to come. Everyone wanted to. If they missed it, they were mad. We went bowling. We went beer tasting. We went. And the company itself, it had a different culture. We had company building, so they would rent out like a little guest house and stuff like that. That they had not beach, like pools and everything, and everyone would come in their beach where you bring your kids, you bring your family. Plus, they had Christmas parties. Um, in fact, I went in July, let's say July 7th, and I think like July 14th, we had this company building exercise. And what it was that, they have like the bulls charging people like in Spain. And we
Mm-hmm.
went to like a corral, and there were actually bulls. And we were actually inside of it, with the bulls chasing us. So it was so we had to climb up on the fence while the bulls ran at us. So there are a lot of activities. I don't see that there's a big culture in Jamaica. You know, we do have the Christmas party, but what about other things that you can bring your family and everyone and bond together and stuff? So yeah, it's not enforceable. We did have a lot. And as expats, I don't like to come up with myself that too much, but as expats, we did have our own group. I'm in the WhatsApp group. We went out a lot together. We bonded together a lot. And you'll always find a group or your tribe, right? Especially if the company culture allows you to do that.
Hmm.
So,
Well, I guess a question from me personally.
hmm
What I guess outside of probably the US, of course,
hmm
what are some of the lessons, speaking at a high level, some of the lessons that you've probably learned from working in these different countries that you believe could possibly work here locally in Jamaica, or at least that you think might be adaptable given the right conditions.
well, I would say like I would say I would want the companies to start, caring about their employees in a sense. It may sound vague, or it may sound, like, but I just think when we start trust our employees, they give you so much more, right? So, and then I don't want to seem like I'm talking to just devs who work for a company, because we have a lot of freelancers, right?
Mm.
And even though I don't freelance anymore, no, um, I think we really have to have that trust for people to work from home or to do the job, to train people, and some of that definitely has to come from the company, right? Um, every company I've worked with had some form of training budget. So far in Jamaica, they would create a training. You don't even know if it's necessary, and you either went to training or you didn't. I didn't see a lot of input in terms of whether you wanted that particular training or if it was important or if it was valuable for your career. But a lot of other companies, they give you the plural side, they give you the online training, or they give you a budget. You can decide to do something and they reimburse you or they pay for it. Sorry, once you prove that it is important, it's not just, we're buying this new tool that we didn't even consult you about. Here, you're going to have training in it. Like me being WebSphere certified when I never ever used WebSphere since 2014. Right? So I
Mm.
think that is definitely one thing I would want to change. And as I mentioned before, devs, I definitely want you guys to just kind of stop thinking about your market and, just the country that you're in, or feeling like, let's say if you're a woman, you're scared to go anywhere and leave your family, or, just choose somewhere that's safe. Choose somewhere that's safe and offers you what you need. And I also want people to stop thinking about the senior, junior, mid, whatever, too much.
Mm.
I was a team lead, and then I took a job that I wasn't a lead, and I was making less money. Why? Think about your career a lot more than you think about your roles. Because ideally, it's your career and your experience that's going to get you your next job, not necessarily the title that you just had, right? So if you're with a company and they don't want to promote you or they don't want to give you a senior, if you're getting the experience, take the experience and then apply it to the seniors somewhere else, right? I saw that a lot in Costa Rica. It was so much easier to jump to another country, sorry, to another company and get the pay you wanted because of the competition, the role you wanted, the talent you wanted, all of these things because of the competition, just by applying to another country, so company, right? So definitely stop thinking about the fact that you have to just grow exactly where you are, and if you do this thing, your boss is going to promote you. If you do this thing, the company is going to recognize it. If you do this thing, no, just stop thinking like that. I had some coworkers who would say that they're mercenaries. I said, there's a job to do, they go out and they do it. They don't even care who the client is. Um, I'm not saying not to form relationships. I'm not saying to cut ties. What I'm saying is you're fireable, So look at the skills, not the skills that you're thinking going to make you not fireable, but the skills that are going to make you marketable. outside of the company, the country, whatever. Yes, I've lived alone. I have lived alone for a short time, because when I went to Costa Rica, I did go without my family for the first couple months, because I the school season wasn't fully done in Jamaica, and there were some other things. I said, let me go and figure out if I'm going to like it. I didn't even know it was in Central America. I didn't even know what the money was. I knew none of those things when I even landed. I didn't even Google the map. I kid you not. I still don't know where Costa Rica is versus Nicaragua, Panama. Do not ask me to leave them on the map. But yeah, so I did live alone. I suffer acts that one. And if you have support, and as I mentioned, company support or people there on the ground, and it's a safe country, I would say, I'm not saying nothing is going to happen. I'm not going to give anyone that assurance. I'm saying that it may not be as bad as you think. So don't overthink it.
Cool. Anyone else have any other questions?
Okay, they're
Going.
finally tired of hearing me talking.
Um,
Oh,
question.
Go ahead.
For okay. So for new and upcoming developers, what are the stuff would you recommend them to learn? Whether it's tech stack concepts or like approaches and best practices to make them more marketable.
Um, mm, uh, I'm going to change the language. First of all, you have to find a language that you, if you're a backend, let me see, if you want to be backend or full stack, let me say that. You have to find a language that you want to learn and try to dominate it. Dominate sounds so strong anyway. Just to be really, really good at it, right? So I would always say I'm a Java developer. Don't want to be accenting in Java 11 because I'm certified Java 7 developer. But I'm saying find your language. Don't join the debate about PHP or C or whatever. The debates are unnecessary. Unnecessary. Just you find one. People said Java would be dead. Java is not dead. Java is still one of the highest paying languages. If I decided I was going to go and get certified again in Java or whatever, my Java job would probably pay me way higher than the job I'm doing right now. Let me tell you that. So find that job, that language, and stick to it. It could be Java. It could be Python, which is very flexible. It could be Go. That's another language I'm seeing it really, really strong now. It could be Kotlin, which I'm not sure people are using it for enterprise, but I do know a lot of Android devs, they are using it. So find that language, a core backend language, and stick with it, and just really learn the concepts. And depending on the company you're trying to apply it to, go and do a little bit more than, I don't know if Dr. Core still teaches Dr. Core's algorithm class.
yes,
Do a
yes,
little bit
it
more than
It does. It does.
it does.
he still teaches.
Yep.
Do a little bit more than Dr. Core's class, because a lot of these big companies and they have these complex algorithms that you have to learn, and even if you never learn it, no, Core, Dr. Core Safra,
Core, core.
Core. I don't remember his first name.
It's
Um,
is Daniel Core is a UE
that yeah,
teacher.
Daniel Core. Do more.
Oh,
Do more
core.
talks. More Core. Okay, so um, yeah, so definitely find a backend language, stick to it. If you're a front end, create that portfolio, do your algorithms, because companies like Facebook, they ask so many algorithm questions, and then they train you in their boot camp and stuff like that. So if you're trying to go internationally, learn that. As I mentioned, when I relocated for that job, I had to do codility, and after that, I've done so many algorithm questions. My brain now thinks like an algorithm, and just learn and also it makes no sense to sit down and complain. I don't like interviewing. I don't like take home assignments. I don't like whatever. If you want a job, you put in the work and you do it. And when you reach a certain level, when jobs are piling in, or recruiters, you have to be ignoring recruiters, then you don't care. You don't have to do it anymore. Like I can say I'm not doing any more take home exams. I can say that from the place of privilege that I'm at now, right? But I mean, when you're just starting out, be open to trying these things at least once, right? Don't allow people to sway you about saying don't do this and don't do that. And I would say finish that degree. I mean, Nicholas didn't. It doesn't matter. You and Nicholas are not. You're not the same person. If you have not quit yet and you're in the progress to do it, finish it, because you want to move to Netherlands, you want to move to Germany, you want to move to Ireland, which is a good country. And one of my friends moved to Latvia. There are so many other countries that you don't even know exist that are paying good money to have someone speaking English and with the development skills. So get your paperwork in order. Go and get your passport together. Get those things in order so you can interview. And when they say fly out to come, you can go up to the German embassy or whatever in Jamaica to get your Schengen. And you can go to the UK high embassy, whatever it's called, to get your embassy to your thing to go to the UK. So do that. Be prepared. In fact, I would say that I renewed my visa like 6 months before I got this offer, and my US visa was what I needed to move to go to Costa Rica. Luckily, I was prepared. So be prepared.
Tangent question on Costa Rica. Did you end up becoming a resident?
Yeah, I was a resident. I was
like a permanent resident.
Yeah, I was a permanent resident. I was 6 months away from applying for citizenship. 6 months? I lived there 5.5 years. No, I would be able to apply for citizenship this year, October. So in Costa Rica, if you're from a Spanish-speaking country, you can apply for citizenship in 5 years. If you're not from a Spanish-speaking country, it's discrimination, yes. You can apply in 7 years. So I would have to wait 7 years. So if I was from Spain, for example, I would have already been a citizen, and I did not want to leave before I became a citizen, but opportunity knocks. But yeah, I was a permanent resident. As I told you, I bought an apartment there. So I mean, I was legal. I wasn't illegal, Nicholas. What are you asking?
No. I was. That's not what I was getting at.
I'm joking. Safra asks if I coded for my entire career. Yeah, for most of my career. So I just started TPMing last year, January. So when I was moving, I was applying for both coding jobs, and I also, and in terms of being prepared, if an opportunity comes, even if you don't know when you're going to use it, do it. For example, I was Scrum Master certified for 2 years before I ever used that certification. I was bored. I said I was going to do it. Just to your point, Safra. So because I was certified, when I was moving, I decided I was going to apply for both coding jobs and TPM jobs and engineering manager jobs. Because at this point, I had over 12 years of experience doing coding, being a team lead, leading a lot of women in tech groups, etc. So I applied for those kind of jobs as well. And the coding, I was in a lot of what do you call it, processes that came to a head and close together. And I did not I wanted to have a job before I moved. So the first offer I got, I took it, and it was a TPM job. So it's quite possible if I had gotten the code job first, I would have taken it. So yeah, I launched an app last year or two, so I do still do a little bit of coding, but that life I miss it, but I'm not sure. The money would have to be really good for me to go back this year.
Yeah. What are the different aspects of development or software product development?
Nicholas, I'm not going to waste your time. I can see the question, so it just saves
you. Oh, you can. Yeah. I didn't know that you had it.
It's software for no code. Scrum Master, think Scrum Master, think TPM, think a program manager, do the Scrum program manager. Those two certifications are, strong. If you reach out to me, do your certifications. If you need any questions or advice, no, you don't need to code Safra. If you need a question and advice about those, speak to me. I can give you more answers offline. But no, you can become a program manager or a Scrum Master without being a coder.
But don't you still need to have a vast knowledge of everything front end and back end to kind of lead all of this?
It depends on the company. It depends on the company. The team I'm leading does Salesforce. I just got Salesforce admin certified, but I never needed to do it because in some companies the TPM may even go on the code reviews, for example. But in other companies, it's totally hands off because they have an engineering manager. So it all depends on the structure of the company. But if you look into those roles and what they're for, they're actually for more like managing the process around it, and it does help to be able to understand the platform and the process. But I would say it's not critical, and as again, it depends on the environment that you're in. Because in some companies, they may have one person doing so many roles because they don't want to hire more people that you may even have to do a code review. It's not what your role is supposed to encompass, right? That's not part of your role as a Scrum Master. You may do it because you want to close gaps, but it's not your role, right?
Mm.
Was that answered okay for you?
Yes, it was.
Yeah. If your company wants you to do code review, etc., and whatever, they're looking for an engineer manager or a team lead or a tech team lead. As I'm saying, it's not that you can't do it. And if your company may say, okay, you're a dev, but they wanted to do both of them, technically they should be paying you for doing both of them or raising your salary. Because a Scrum Master is a full-time role. It's a full-time role, right? A program manager is also a product owner, which is also the other Scrum role, is a full-time role. You're supposed to be meeting with stakeholders, getting their requirements. You should be the voice of the customer. If you're there with the customer stakeholder all day, you don't got no time to code, right? Or you should be ensuring that they get it correctly, in terms of their deliverables. You should be testing that, but you're not supposed to be coding unless you do everything for the company. That's like being the CEO. When you start a one-man company, you're the CEO, you're the coder, you're the QA, you're the Scrum Master, etc. But in a well-developed company, they're not going to ask you to do everything. They shouldn't. So that's my role. That's my day-to-day. If I have free time, I go and study or do something else. I have one-on-ones with my team to make sure they're okay, especially it's COVID. I meet with other stakeholders to plan whatever it is we're delivering. But I'm not reading anybody's code, etc., because that's not my role. I may look at
Okay.
it because I'm curious, but not because it's my role.
That was going to lead to my next question. So,
Go
because
ahead.
you're in a job now that you're not really coding, you're more managing, do you still practice and keep up with your coding? Since you said you're a JavaScript expert, do you still?
What is
Extra.
it? I can judge.
Well, you said you are good in JavaScript 7, so
You never
No, I
said
said
expert.
Java. Remember, Java and JavaScript, two different things.
my
Yeah.
apologies. My
My,
apologies.
yeah, I'm way stronger in Java. As I mentioned, I launched an app last year, the Lavish app on Android, and not for what's the other one, iOS.
iOS.
I plan to kind of do it for iOS, but as I also told Nicholas, I don't believe in coding from scratch anymore. So there's that. And I do have my WordPress sites where I go in and I'm okay with PHP. I don't have a problem customizing something in PHP, and I modify my themes, and I change my themes like every 3 months because I'm bored. So I do that. But so in a sense, I do miss a little bit of it. But you know what? After 12 years, I'm very, very confident that if I need to go and pick up something, I just go and do an upgrade exam, or I go and do a course to basically learn for example, when I started with Java or even enterprise Java, they didn't the concept of fully fleshed out MVC. Spring was nowhere where it is now. I'm not sure anyone used Spring Boot or anything. JavaScript wasn't where it was. We were using Ajax from scratch. The best UI roller you had was JavaScript UI. So there was no Angular. There were no template engines and, color lib. You could go and choose your colors and download, and this things didn't exist. So, I mean, we had to do everything from scratch. So we learned the hard way. So I honestly think I would just have to go and do like a boot camp for myself to get back in there full time. So I'm not even worried.
Yeah.
And someone says, what are some of the what are some of the underscore qualities of a TPM or manager, and the different aspects of development or software product development? And I know we're over time, so Nicholas, please, let me know when we're going over too much in your time.
No, it's good.
Latifa, I would say, in terms of the most important aspect, I think I'm going to say it depends on the company. Why? Um, the product, and I'm not sure if you mean like well, it's the TPM role. Um, so the TPM in my role, it means the technical project manager. There's a traditional technical project manager, which would be like you go and you do read the PM book and do the project management certification, which is a lot more prescriptive to how we plan and iterate for projects. We have our plan, we have our Gantt chart, etc. Right? And that form of project management was more applicable to every project you can think of. You're rolling out new power lines, you're rolling out a fleet of cars, that would work for everything. Everyone is doing agile now, right? Especially for software engineering roles. So I would think my role, even though I'm officially a TPM, is more like a scrum master, because what I'm doing is more leading an agile team, or sitting, not even sitting with an agile team, because we're in Scrum, we're on the same level, right? So sitting with my agile team, I have the product owner and I have the devs, and we're working in concert to ensure that we're putting out a releasable code every sprint, which is first is 2 weeks. So as I mentioned, technically I don't need to even know what they're doing, because the devs are skilled, they know what they're doing. But I should be able to know what their roadblocks are. I should be able to spot any gaps, that not gaps in their code, but let's say gaps in terms of what they're delivering versus what is being asked. And I'm able to, just have that synergy between any other teams that I'm supposed to connect with. So it's very important, in my opinion, that you know the software development life cycle in terms of what it is, right? Okay, after we do this, we're gonna, but not in the traditional waterfall sense. More like, and I don't want to get too prescriptive. More like, we're gonna develop, we have to test, we have to roll out. Kind of, if I want to make it simple. So that's the important part. When you're doing TPM in a more agile company, from my perspective. In another company where it's a lot more, it can be a lot more document. But for me, I have a lot more tools that I use to track stuff, but I'm not documenting in Word and Excel all my time. And in terms of qualities, I would say be good at communicating. Not that you have to be perfect, but you're really trying to pull people together to get them to work together. So you can't force people to work, and you can't force people to do good work. So you have to definitely be understanding of any challenges that may come up. Be willing to give and take, and be willing to learn the business, not necessarily the tech stack. I would say the business, as in what you're doing and why your team is doing it. So
that makes sense.
And it says Key can relate to that scenario. I'm not sure what scenario that was.
Oh, I think she was referring to being the
head cook and bottle washer. Oh boy. Any more questions? One man back. Yeah, I founded a company. Well, it's not officially a company unless if you don't register it, right? So I started this idea of Crack the Stack, where we, to coach women, especially women in tech, because I did a lot of women in tech stuff. I approached a CEO in Costa Rica, and I started this women in tech group. I led that for 2.5 years, and I really, really where was I going with this? I don't remember. I lost track of.
I think you were probably referring to the one-man band argument, the head cook and
okay, yeah. You see, my brain went okay. I don't remember what I was going to say. Cut this one out of the recording. Any more questions?
Yeah. Any other questions, people?
Oh yeah, I was talking about the group that I started, the Crack the Stack, and to help people to prepare for the job that they want, etc. And
Mm.
honestly, it's a lot of work and was a lot of work. I kind of phased down on that because it's just too much. I did do some coaching for women in tech even into last year, but doing all of that, your day to day work to pay your bills. I'm hope people are doing work to pay their bills. um, Plus doing things for free. You just have to balance all of that. So I mean, it can be a lot. So kudos to everyone who's doing a lot, a lot. I think Ryan had asked how long have I been doing talks like this.
Oh yeah,
Um,
you did.
I would say today. Why? Because I've done like in terms of the groups that I led, and I was also a member of the board for the Intel Women Intel Network. Did talks for that. I did a facilitation for constructive conversations. I do a lot of that, but it's usually within the company. I'm someone who's usually going to a company and I get deep into it, and I do a lot of things. So for in Costa Rica, I was part of the Black. What's it called again? Oh my God. It's the group for people of African descent. Because they wanted to make it African American, but of course we're not African American, so we had to make it exclusive. I do a lot of work like that, but in terms of reaching out to like people in the general, I just kind of approached Nicholas the other day and said, you know what, I see people saying some things on Twitter, etc. And I don't really think people in Jamaica are thinking, or Trinidad, they're thinking outside of the market that they're at, or they're doing what they need to do, or they're thinking only special people get pulled, into these companies. And I see one or two people saying, hey, now I work at Google, now I work at this. And it's like, they're a superstar, but and people are saying, oh, but I don't think I can do that. But people are doing it, and people have been doing it. You just, you need to put yourself out there. It's money, right? Money is there to be made, and experiences are there to be had for every single person, even the girl from St. Mary.
Oh.
Yep. Travel the world. Oh, travel the world as a dev. It's there. Just to add a point, like a lot of the people I worked with, in Costa Rica, um, they are now in Europe. Like they're hopping more than me. I would say, like last couple months ago, someone told me, "Oh, they're in Poland." I'm like, "What?" They just got their citizenship in Costa Rica, and they went to Poland. So by the next 3 years, they probably can apply for citizenship in Poland as well. Um, One of my coworkers from India is now he's in Germany. People went back to Mexico. You know, this is just everyone. Like I was supposed to go to Netherlands last year because so many of my old coworkers are there. Germany, Germany. There's so hi Latifa. There's so many people who have moved to Germany. I wanted to go to Germany last year. I'm just saying, go out and make the $10. Stop thinking about just the Canada and US, please, because there are some countries that are so beautiful with great cultures. They'll treat you so well. You get the blue book in Germany. You can work in, I think, any of the Schengen countries. Once you have that, once you go there with your qualifications and get certified. So please, stop thinking within this box. There's a big box. Sweden is absolutely beautiful. It's so beautiful. I'm just saying, stop thinking about the box that you're in. Stop worrying about the language. No good company is going to bring you somewhere and not support you. And you're capable. You already speak Patois or your dialect and English, so you can learn one more language. Don't worry about it.
Latifa's
I see
alarm.
Latifa is from St. Mary, hey?
Are you seeing her question?
Yeah, have you had any marginalized and then experience the women in tech and or prevalent is I am in Costa Rica, I can speak to Costa Rica in a sense. The culture is I always pronounce that word incorrectly, so I'm not gonna do it. But it's the idea that men do men job and women do women job. So I found in Jamaica I never saw the need for a woman in tech until I moved to Costa Rica, and that's the honest truth. And this is why I started the group and ran the group Machismo, right? So this is why I started the group. and we had so many women. We had full buy-in, and from the CEO, from every single person, right? And there are so many women I met. For example, at the Intel conference, I was there and I was talking to women there, right? And I spoke to them in Spanish too, a little bit in Spanish. And there were some women or girls still have the idea that tech is not for them because it makes them look macho, like masculine. Guys don't want to date. Can't believe it. Women who are in tech. But no, honestly, when people verbalize it, I thought they were telling me stupidness, because some of the most feminine women I know are in tech because you're making tech money, so you can put yourself together, right? So yeah, girls are telling me they're not going into tech because their boyfriend won't like it, and the guys don't want to date women in tech because they think women in engineering and stuff like that. Yes, Safra. So they don't want to do. I'm like, what? It's because they don't want to make the money. It's because they don't want you to make the money. So it is. Oh my God, they don't want to make the money and then have the power and then don't need them at all. So yes, I found that, and that's the reason why I started the group. And also, I like to dress fancy, right? So, my skirts and stuff coming from Jamaica, we have more of a, work clothes culture. In Costa Rica, you basically gonna roll out of bed in your t-shirt and jeans, which is not a problem. It's just not my style. So a lot of people did not think I'm a programmer, because of how I dress and how I am. A lot of people didn't understand. I didn't match the mold. First of all, I'm five. No, I'm not 5'11". I'm 5'9.5". I wear heels. I'm 5'11". I'm skinny. They think I'm a model. And then I'm in the space. So I'm there, and there are 20 men, and I'm the only girl. So that's the only place I definitely got a little bit. I always had to be telling people, yes, I code. Why do you think I don't code? Or they look to me and think I'm the manager or I'm the QA. So I guess that's the only place I've ever felt like, there are men, and there are men who try to second guess you and stuff like that. But, I definitely stand up for myself. And so it's really, or, they find I'm the lead, or they find that people really, really respect me and the work that I do. And, they kind of phase off. Fun fact, I'm taller than most of the men in Costa Rica.
Yeah, they are short. They're like what, 5'5" on average. Yeah.
Yeah, so, so and I need to stop wearing heels because I kind of stopped wearing heels in Costa Rica because of that. So I guess that's the only marginal, yeah, that kind of experience that I had, because they definitely had that culture, and I think they're doing really, really great. Intel has a really, really great program for women. The woman at Intel Network is really, really active. I think they're doing really great work to bring more women into the company. And some of the women I worked with, they're so great. They're awesome. They're awesome. But
And
honestly, you don't have to prove what you can do. So if you go somewhere and you're a dev or you're whatever, you're the lead and etc. And someone comes and question your ability, just be like, yeah, I'm a developer. I mean, deal with it. Like, I don't have to fit your mold or your idea of what it is. Just like deal with it. Because people say to me, "Oh, you really can code?" I'm like, "Yeah," or they try to test you or something like that. You don't have to fall for the trap. Just you got hired, I got hired. Like, I don't have to prove myself to you, and you don't. It's just the truth,
on the
honestly.
point of discrimination,
Hmm.
uh, what about race discrimination? Just generally. I mean, outside of the US, probably. I think it was. I'm going to be jogging your memory and probably mine. I guess on my official Twitter account. This was like probably a year and a couple months ago, and I'd made a tweet about probably like a surprising nuance in racism that I experienced in Costa Rica.
Oh,
About
tell me.
yeah, yeah, it was just weird. I mean, this is out of context, but I was just doing some volunteer project for this family, like helping to build a house or something. And then like some babies just called me. Yeah, you remember. But bringing it back full circle, I guess I kind of wanted to know how has race relations been in those exotic countries, as someone living there outside of your own domain.
Okay. I have two thoughts on this. One, when you go to someone's country and let's say you're professional, you're in a professional setting, even if people want to be a certain way, they sometimes can't. You get what I mean? So because of if I went to someone's country, let's say I honestly think if I went there and I was driving a taxi or something, that I had to interact with people who were not that exposed or educated, my experience would have been different. I definitely will say I went there in a privileged way. You understand what I'm saying? And that most of the people I had to interact with, they're coming from different countries. They may have never worked with a black person or never seen a black person. They may want to see my hair or stuff like that. And there are people who never knew I could be so, I may mess up my words now, so eloquent or educated or be at the level that I'm at. But in general, it was more like a sense of awe than anything else because of how I interacted or where I had to interact with people. And I'm saying that specifically. To your point, in terms of what happened with you, I think though, there are a lot of people, especially in rural areas, who are not exposed to black people. There are black people in Costa Rica. And if you find, because most of the people in Limon, they're from African descent, so they speak English. And my friend would say that most of their English teachers used to be black because they used to pull them from Limon because they speak English because of the patois, they learn it probably from Jamaican music, etc. But a lot of people still have not interacted. So I did have an incident like that with my son at McDonald's, where there was a busload of kids and their parents who came from somewhere. And I don't know, make generalizations. This is being recorded, but you could tell that those kids were not as exposed. Those kids and those parents were not as exposed, right? So he was in the slide. He wanted to go in the slide, and I was waiting on him. And some of the kids went into the slide in McDonald's the play area, and someone came on and they were saying stuff. And he came and said to me, "Mommy, that kid called me El Chico Feo. It's come with the ugly kid, basically." And I said to him, like, "Which kid?" Oh. and he was like, "Those kids over there." And they were looking at him like, I said, "Go back and say, Feo como tú." It's like ugly like you or whatever. And he was like, "I'm not going to say that. I'm going to be saying I'm ugly." And I was like, oh, "You're right." So I started to give them dagger eyes and stuff like that. But as I watch them, their mannerisms, etc., you get to see that people, not everyone is exposed, and sometimes people's behavior. And this is my exact thought on your incident. People who are not exposed will behave in a particular way. It's not always that they're coming from a place of malice. I can tell you that because I had to break a lot of stereotypes, and I happily broke those stereotypes because I never wanted people to say that the only Jamaican girl they met, she was so this, and I had to break the stereotype about being aggressive or speaking like yaman or or people thinking that we all lived in huts, or they probably would be surprised that I could go to school and have both a bachelor's and a master's. But I'm just saying, people have stereotypes that are often out of ignorance, and it's not always malice. And sometimes you just have to approach it as it is. Try to figure out, why do you think that? Why would you think that? And why do you think that before you answer? Because honestly, if the parents are not interacting with people of your color, or like in Costa Rica, if they're saying, "Oh, Limon is very dangerous, don't go to Limon. Oh my God, don't go to Limon, Limon," in all negative terms, and they're mostly black people who are living there, that's going to perpetuate into the rest of the society. And even the fact that you're going to look weird to someone who's never seen someone like you. And I remember as a kid, when someone would look different, especially with red hair, oh my God, I was like, "Why is her hair red?" It's a bit of a curiosity, which sometimes, it can come off in a bad way. But maybe because I've been exposed now to a lot more cultures, I personally don't get offended first. But yeah, as I mentioned, for me, it was a lot more awe. I did get called La Negrita en la calle, solo como La Negra, Negrita, all the time. And at first, I was super offended because why are they calling me black, 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 black everywhere I go? But then after a while, I was, it's like Mr. Chin, like people call everyone Mr. Chin. I definitely didn't think it was bad or negative, or someone said this, I said Mr. Chin. But as I said, I can only speak from that kind of level. And in fact, the first year I was there, I went to the beach, and I was with a group of friends. There were four short white guys, not white, but Latinos. I don't remember what I had on, but people were like taking photos. I think they thought I was a model because I was the only black person on the beach. And as I said, I'm 5'9", and I had my 4 or 5 short friends looking like bodyguards. So we're taking photos, and it's like, maybe they were saying like, "No, we can't." I don't know what they were saying, but I'm just saying. But as I said, if you're going to a place where you have to have interactions with a lot of people who are not that exposed, you're probably going to get a lot more negative experiences. So I can't say it's not racist because people who live there can tell you they grew up with a lot of black people who grew up there can tell you they grew up with racism. But I was just answering from my perspective because I went there already as an adult, taller than so many people, so they're probably scared already. And and just from a place of privilege where I was shopping at Walmart, I was going places that didn't expose me to certain circumstances. So
That makes sense. So that makes sense. You were more or less kind of in a bubble of subsides.
yeah, I was on my bodyguards. I was on my bodyguards.
Okay.
And Rihanna, I see your comment. Yeah, for like Rihanna, for me personally, anyone wants to connect with me on LinkedIn, I'm certainly cool with that. If I do this for free because I definitely want to people more exposed. I want Jamaican people making money. I want you guys understanding that there are so many more options. I don't want anyone to feel like stuck, etc. So if you have a school or anything you want me to do a talk, I'm open to doing it. Because when I get famous, I may start charging a lot of money, but I'm not famous yet. I'm joking. I just really, I did a lot of this, and I said to someone, when I was in Costa Rica, I did so much free work. As in, I did so much mentoring. I did so much of these talks, the conferences, so much of I did so much of this outside of where I'm from. I think it's time I kind of match that, and do it back. Yes, I wasn't that interested, or I didn't see the need as much until I came out. But now I'm definitely looking and seeing maybe the gaps were there. I didn't notice. So, if there are gaps there, I'm here to help plug it. Just like, Nicholas, plug the gap so people can go out and see the world. Contact me. You can find me on LinkedIn. I tell you my name. There are 2 of us, but my name is very. I am telling you LinkedIn because you should be on LinkedIn if you're here. So
let me actually find your profile and then send the link in the chat.
Yeah, and let me, if you ask me a quick question. Oh, cool. Yeah, I'm definitely free to answer that. I definitely, like in Jamaica, we don't really have. I don't know about. I didn't go to high school in Kingston. Yeah, I did went to Queens for sixth form, but I went to an all-girls school that we didn't have like a tech thing. It was like an arts and sciences thing, and I kind of like bounced around and just ended up in the right spot. There's no career coaching, and I was actually a career counselor at UA. I did a lot of stuff. But there's not a lot of people telling us that we can be this. Like, do this, your salary is going to be twice that of a teacher. Do this, your salary can be 3 times that of a shopkeeper. You understand me? Because we're not speaking in dollars and cents, and I'm not saying it's everything, but we have to show people that a different perspective and the different options, and a way out for people who even want to find something somewhere safer and bring their entire family with them.
Okay.
Um, extracurricular probably helped in my first job, and I don't even think so. I honestly don't think. I think the extracurriculars helped me with my personal knowledge. The ones I did, like I did mentorship at UA. That's the one where they assigned you a mentor. I think that helped me get a job. And actually, my mentor, she died a couple weeks ago, Mrs. Avril Crawford. Not sure who anyone who knows her. She was the CEO of eLearning, Jamaica. But I was assigned a mentor at UA when I was there. Um, and the career counseling I did because I really I felt like being a career counselor helped me a lot more than it helped other people. Sorry guys. Helped me to kind of see my path. And I was like a course rep, which I think those things helped me with my leadership. But in terms of actually getting the job, I guess all they develop my character is more. It helped more than my actual skills. In terms of relocating, though, those are my actual skills. Nothing to do with extracurricular. Nothing to do with going to Campion or any of those fancy schools that I didn't go to. Nothing to do with links. When you're looking outside of Jamaica, it's going to all be your skills and your ability to sell yourself.
What's your master's in, and was it locally? Oh,
My master's is in software engineering, and I did it online with University of Hertfordshire. Fun fact, I got a full scholarship from the OAS in 2011. Um, I I needed time off from work, and then do I put this on record? But I was having some issues, so it was a full scholarship. Yes, the Organization of American Students. If you Google my name, you're gonna find me in that list. But there were so many things that happened that I ended up not being able in 2010, not being able to take it up, and it was only one. And I'm sorry because the person next in line didn't get to take it. It was to do my master's in Canada, but I didn't do that one. But I ended up paying for it myself to do my master's. The Hertfordshire, they have a full online program. I think it costs like close to $10,000, but yeah, but if you leave Jamaica or the Caribbean, you'll find a job that pays you enough that you can pay for it yourself without needing a scholarship if you decide to do it. Now I basically put my master's on applications more than I put my bachelor's because I find it's way easier for the job people to validate it, that one than to contact UA. But that's just me.
hmm.
The program was 1.5 years. It started in September 2016 and I finished October 2017. So it's a full time master's. So you're gonna do it online with your job. If you don't have that capacity, it's challenging.
Hmm.
Yeah, UK masters tend to be shorter. It's not 2 years like US, which is one of the reasons I never chose US as a place to do the masters at all. Even in online, they drag it out too much. That's not my idea of school. I don't love school that much, so I do it too to make myself marketable, not because I needed to do my job.
Hmm. Fair. Any any
Last question,
other?
since I've been here 2 hours.
Oh
30.
yeah. I guess last question.
Well, I'll take this one. So, my name is Oshin. Nicholas and I, we have this thing going on called Jamaican Developers Community. So one of the events that we tend to keep on a monthly basis is Career in Tech. And next month, there's going to be an event about remote work, and navigating that as a like a developer and how to push your career as a remote worker or basically a freelancer. Would you be interested? I'm going to put you on the spot. Would you be interested in being on that panel?
Okay. First thing, most of my freelance work. Let me separate the difference. Most of my remote work has been working for a company as an employee. most of my remote work. Let me say that. Freelancing, I've done like, things when you work with Guru and remember Elance was around and stuff like that, like
Yeah, I
doing
remember
like
that.
tips for people, etc. I did a gig with Tom's Hardware, that big website once, but I didn't do a lot of coding. I did do like implement PHP scripts, like what do you call it, like contact management system, etc. One for a guy in New Zealand that never paid me, but but I'm just saying. So my remote work has not been that, like doing a long ongoing project as a freelancer. So I'm not sure if that fits into your thing.
Okay. So it's not necessarily about freelancer, but it was because the one that we recently kept was the employer edition. But you've been in the dev world and you know like PM is basically, it would be great to hear your perspective from like a PM role working with remote workers, as well as you're working from home right now. I'm assuming, what's your take on that as a PM? Because these are not necessarily for just developers, but also for digital professionals, could be QA, PM, and so forth.
Okay, sure, I'll join.
Okay.
Did Nicholas pin you to ask me, because he did it, right? I know that.
No. Nicholas know that I'm very bold enough to just put people on the spot.
You have to be bold. Actually, bold. There's no problem with it. I'm it probably irrelevant. When I was in Costa Rica, people found I was very direct. I'm like, you're so direct. How else do you get to the point? Like, seriously. Yeah. So that's not a bad trait, actually. So don't worry about it. So I guess that's the last question for me.
Yeah,
Nicholas
I
already put
guess
how you can contact me. As I said, I mean, I know there are some ladies on the chat, and one person mentioned something about being an undergrad. As I mentioned, if I have the time, I don't have an issue. I definitely want people to see what's out there. I would say 2 months before I left Jamaica, I never knew I was going to leave Jamaica. Like, I never had it, like, But by the time I got that contact, I studied for like a week to do the codility, passed it enough to do that interview, studied at work and everywhere else. So, Java concepts, etc. So I could do that interview. And the first team I actually interviewed for, they passed on me. And they passed me to another team who I interviewed for. And, they said, yes, we're going to get a girl on the team finally. And they became some of my best friends. So, you know, don't sell yourself short. Put yourself out there. Study when the opportunity comes.
Safar
Try
asked
something
you
new.
a
Go
slip
ahead.
question. Where did
Sorry?
you find that opportunity?
I was contacted on LinkedIn. So again, if you don't have a LinkedIn, you have a
LinkedIn.
problem.
Uh, okay. Thank you so much, Jody. Greatly appreciated.
Mucho
Uh,
gusto.
for reaching out. I will probably be accepting more LinkedIn requests from now on. I don't know, maybe.
I'm not forcing you to. I'm not telling you what to do, bro. I'm not telling you what to do.
But thank you everyone for attending. Thank you for taking the time out. Jody, thanks again.